What a great group of folks. I'm delighted to be here. I'm really honored to be here. I got to be honest with you, people aren't being bored down here at State Fair. But I am here. This is a real important topic, and one of the guys, I see Senator Gronstal is here. If there's anybody in the state of Iowa who's done more to protect IPERS, I don't know who it would be. But and Nancy said I was going to go through the presentation before, and then there were other questions, so sometimes we ask them through it. But today I'll give the presentation, and we'll answer every question you guys have, or try to. But I'm Michael Fitzgerald, Treasurer of the State of Iowa. I've been Treasurer for 35 years. I've been around a long time, and I'm kind of the banker for the state. Keep track of a lot of our different money, and I'm as I said, one of the custodian of IPERS, and I'm the president of the board and one of the board members, obviously. But just to give you a quick commercial, we also do the Great Iowa Treasure Hunt. And it's literally millions of dollars people forget about. And that we've returned $250 million to over 592,000 people, but we're still holding $357 million. We have 1 million names on our list. And a lot of them are right here in Pottawatomie County. We've returned over $6 million here in Pottawatomie County, but it's coming in faster than we can return. I have $8.1 million just for the people here in Pottawatomie County. So when you go home tonight, get out your Google machine and call it the Great Iowa Treasure Hunt, put in your last name. And for the ladies, put in your maiden name as well. And a lot of you are going to be pleasantly surprised. I've got some of your money. There's a lot of ways you lose track of it, and I end up with a lot of it, so thank you. Also, we do college savings. It's the best college savings program in the country, and parents and grandparents love it because it helps be able to send your grandkids or kids to college, which is getting out of hand. Kids are getting out of school these days $100,000 in debt. It's unbelievable. It's holding back the state of Iowa, holding back young people sometimes from getting married, buying a house, or whatever. But you can put up to $3,319 into this account and deduct it right from your Iowa taxes, professionally invested by Vanguard, gross tax-free, and the kids can go wherever they want. If the kid doesn't need it, you can transfer it to the family and things like that. It's really simple and easy. And, we have almost $25 million right here in Pottawatomie County invested from people out here. But we want everybody to be aware of it, because that's all I hear is, I've never heard of this program before. Great way to save for your kids and grandkids to go to college. And September was College Savings Month. And we have a drawing going. It's going to go on until the end of October. And we're going to give away 4 $5,000 scholarships. And we're going to give away 5 $529 scholarships. And all you have to do is go to Iowa529contest.com. And it's right on your brochure that you received. But you go, you'll have to look at 30-second commercial, and you're registered. Or you have to put in your name, and then that's it. You don't have to sign up for the program or anything like that. But you're in for the drawing. And our purpose, of course, is if people hear about it and see it. They're going to say, hey, this is great. And of course, a lot of you may not have $3,000 to put into an account. You can start these for as little as $25. So it gives you professional investments and tax breaks, no matter what level of financial spectrum you're on. So it's just a great program. So, with that, I'm here to talk about IPERS. And I think most of you are pretty well connected to it. And it's just a great program. But today, there's a couple of takeaways I want you to leave this room knowing. And that is, one, IPERS is strong, it's sustainable, and it's secure. It's just an absolutely great system built on a solid foundation. The other thing, I want you to realize you must be vigilant. That there are threats out there. Strong organizations and individuals that want to get rid of IPERS. They think they're paying for it. And it's costing them too much money. Get rid of IPERS. It's a defined benefit system. You retire, you have great things. But I want you to know, you've got to be vigilant and telling your representatives and governor and over, whatever party you're in, IPERS is good, we want it protected. That's what I hope you take away. I'm just going to give you the facts today and what people are saying about it. So if we can go on, as I said, I've been treasurer 36 years, and I serve on the IPERS investment board. I'm currently the chairman of the board, but there's 11 members on that board. There's 7 voting members and 4 legislators, 2 from the Senate, 2 from the House, and they oversee it. And it has a history of being very successful. IPERS was created in 1953, so it's been around a while, almost 70 years. And that we have $32 billion in the fund. That's a lot of money. And that the primary purpose is to provide a secure core retirement benefit. And that, and also, it's really helped us in this state, as part of the purpose, is attract good public employees. Whether it's a teacher or somebody who works at the DOT or down at the courthouse. We want good employees in the state. It's a great selling point. But it's designed to supplement Social Security and your personal savings. You know that old retirement stool that people talk about, 3-legged stool. You got Social Security, your pension, and your personal savings. That's still the case. But boy, if you got IPERS, you got a darn good pension system to be part of your retirement. So, move along. One of the things, IPERS is a defined benefit plan. That means you worked and your benefit is determined on how many years you worked, what your high 5-year salary was, and that's a formula. And when you retire, you're going to get that benefit and that amount to the day you die. It's a defined benefit. It's there. The system stands behind it. You can count on it. Nobody's going to come take it away. And the fund, as I said, is managed by IPERS. And because, yeah, we hire professional managers, but it's managed at very low cost. We've proved it out over the years. You know, we have employees and we hire professional managers and stuff, but as opposed to going to Wall Street, we're getting a good deal for real professional management. The thing that many people want to say is we need to change this system to a defined contribution system. And what that is, the same as a 401k, you may have heard of that. Basically where you put money in each month, maybe the state puts in a certain amount, you hire an investment manager or they have one lined up for you, and what you save up by the end of time, that's what you have. Period. Market goes south like it did in 2008 or whatever, well, that's just too bad for you. That's a defined contribution plan. You just define what you contribute. And that's, in that case, as I said, you have to make your own investment decisions. And at that point, you're probably hiring firms that are going to cost you a lot more to invest this money than you would otherwise. And I will bring it up later, but a lot of people then will start saying, well, we're not going to just put it into a 401k, we're going to start what we call a hybrid plan. I'll talk a little bit more about that. That's worse than worse than the defined contribution in my mind. But I want you to be aware, when they start talking hybrid, it doesn't mean we make a hybrid meaning better. Hybrid meaning worse for you guys. So IPERS, 350,000 people are in IPERS. You have 3 million people in the state of Iowa, more than 10% of the people in Iowa are in IPERS. And then you know, that's without counting spouses and things like that. So it affects a lot of folks. And, you know, 1 in 10 Iowans are in it. Over half, 52% of the people who were teachers or worked in the education field. So, and the average annual benefit, $17,000. But also I say, you know, besides education being over half of it, you know, state employees, 15%, city, 14%, the county, 16%. So, you know, we have a lot of public workers. So, IPERS, it does help our retirees greatly, but it's not just our retirees. Each year in Iowa, benefits, $2 billion is paid out, right at $2 billion is paid out in benefits all over the state of Iowa. And 1.7 billion remains in Iowa. You know, a lot of people say, oh, these IPERS retirees, they all go to Florida or Arizona. You can see the money says that ain't so. $1.7 billion with a B stays right here in Iowa. So, you know, you go to the grocery store or buying your shoes or out to dinner, you're helping the local community's environment. That's a big boost to our local economies all over the state. It's a big plus. And yeah, right here in Potawatomi County, IPERS paid out $38,531,422 right here in Potawatomi County. We had 2,282 people in Potawatomi County getting IPERS benefits. I don't know what the whole population is out here, but that's a lot of people in Potawatomi County getting IPERS benefits. And this isn't unusual. This is all over the state of Iowa. It's a real benefit. And how's it funded? You know, a lot of people think, oh, well, that's just a freebie that all these government workers get. That isn't the way it is. How's it funded? Well, it's funded, contributions, money's taken out of a public employee's paycheck every month. And the employer puts in money. It's a 60-40 split. The employer puts in a little bit more than the employee. That's not unusual for businesses or anybody else. But also the investment income is very, very important. I told you, $32 billion. We have a lot of investment earnings. As a matter of fact, 70% of the money that IPERS operates on is from the investments. So it's a key important figure. But a little bit more into the weeds, as I said, 60% is what the state or the school or whatever puts in. 9.44% of your paycheck goes into IPERS, and the employee has 6.29% taken out of their paycheck and it's put into IPERS. And that's who contributes to IPERS, you and the employee. It's not a freebie you're getting. And as I said, we're professionally invested, well diversified. We invest all over the world. We have U.S. stocks, we have 15% in foreign stocks, bonds, public real estate, smart beta, that's index for stocks, if you aren't familiar with that. It's, but they make private equity and credit, making some loans and business-wise, but we're into real estate, we're into timber, even if bought in farmland, 1% cash. So it's well diversified, all over the world, professionally managed. So, and so let's take a look at the returns. IPERS says, we hear, how's it doing? You have to make estimates out there. Gee, for the next 30 years, how much are you going to make on your investments? How long is everybody in here going to live? What's the inflation rate going to be? Nobody can predict all these things. We make decisions and then kind of project out. And we, like we're pretty conservative about it. One of the things we say is that we're only going to make 7% return on our investments. And so how are we doing? Well, as you can see, for the last 30 years, we've averaged 8.72% return. And last year, we did almost 8%. And then, in the last 3 years, it averaged 7.2. Last 5, again, back up over 8% we're averaging. But, the 10 years, that got that 2008. That's, when the stock market crashed. That got us down a little, and we're still only 0.16% behind that bogey. But if we can, and I say this because we're concerned, a lot of times you'll hear out there, oh, IPERS is $7 billion underfunded. Well, that's if you take all these conservative assumptions. And I'll talk about that a little later, but if we had averaged 8.72% the next 30 years, we're over 100% funded. So if we'd average 8%, we're like 95 or 96% funded right now. So IPERS is solid, but we're projecting out very conservative. Kind of what's the worst case scenario? So yeah, we look at, for looking at the future, we look at the contributions, the investment income, and that has to equal the benefits. We have a pretty good idea what the benefits are, but investment income and how long people are going to live and things like that, that's just pretty hard to predict. So, the economic assumptions and what inflation and the demographics, like how long you're going to live and stuff like that. Back to how good is IPERS? IPERS, the Pew, this is by Pew, you probably all heard of Pew research people. They say we're the 10th best funded public pension fund nationally. That's pretty darn good. That's, and then, in 2018, we're 81% funded. Like I say, if we'd say, oh, we're going to earn 8% instead of 7%, we'd be up in the 90s. So it's 81% funded is really high compared to us all across the country. And that the median for across the country is only 71%. So IPERS is doing well. We want to get this back to 100% funded, and the state has a plan. Even if we only earn 7%, in 26 years, it'll be 100% funded. Hopefully it's before that, but pension funds, you got to look out a long ways in advance, and that we are, but we're on track to be 100% funded. So it's on solid ground, no question about it. A little of the history. Back in the 90s, we were about 95%, or 97 or 98% funded. And then we had the recession hit in the early 2000s. The stock market just sat there. And so the underfundedness got down to about 85%. And then we got into, oh my goodness, 2008 come along, and that's when we took the drop. And it's down there, 80%, got into, I think, 79% at one time. And that's, so the last few years, our funding levels were starting to perk back up. We got up to 85%. You might wonder, well, why did it drop off 2 or 3%? And that's because IPERS, just being conservative, said, instead of us saying we're going to make 7.5% like we were in the past, we're going to lower that and say, oh, we're only going to make 7. So that's why that dropped. But this year we made 8%, so it's going to start working its way back up. Again, we're making conservative assumptions to make sure it's on solid ground out there, and it is. Okay, as I said, we've done things in the early 2000s. We updated the mortality tables, taking into account people are living longer, and that's good. We want them to live longer. And that there was a time period there where the contributions were less than actuarially was required. That has been changed, and now the amount the actuaries say needs to be put in is put in. You'll hear about Illinois and some of these states that get in big trouble. They take what they call pension holidays. They say, well, we're just not going to fund the pension fund for a year or two. We'll make it up down the road. Iowa hasn't done that. Iowa's pretty disciplined, but we were a little bit underneath there for a few years, and it was changed in 2004, and then in 2010 there was other things that were changed. The vesting period, it went from 4 to 7 years to be vested in IPERS, and that there were some benefits reduced. And like it used to be, you got the average of your top 3 years. Now it's the average of your top 5 years. That's a benefit reduction. And then increased contributions. Employees are putting a little bit more in than they used to. So is the state. So again, it's not just the members of IPERS have taken a haircut on some of those benefits, and they're putting more money into the system. And you can see our plan here is get our pension fund back on track. Today, as I said, we're 81% funded. with this plan, we have it so by the 2040, it'll be 100% funded. Matter of fact, I think it'll be over 100% funded by then, because we make pretty conservative assumptions. So, before I move on to the next point, I just hope everybody is convinced by looking at the facts that IPERS is solid and secure and sustainable. It's an excellent system, and even though you might hear, oh, it's $7 billion underfunded, that's kind of a guess, but we're looking at it conservatively. How it's invested, money that's being put into the system, it's strong. And that, you know, the facts bear that out. The other thing, as I said when we started out this discussion, everyone here needs to be vigilant, because there are strong interests out there that want to change IPERS. They don't like it. They want you to have a 401k system, or they want you to have what you call a hybrid, which is kind of scary. And I don't want to alert folks out here too. If you've already retired and you've got your contracted benefit, you're probably 99% sure that you're not going to lose your benefit. But there's still people, there's law cases out there all the time, chipping away at benefits for retirees. You know, Rhode Island's getting the cost of living increases in theirs all the time. Well, they got that taken away. There's a case in California where they're just saying, you know, if your economics can't support the pension system, we ought to be able to lower the pension benefits. Now, I hope they don't make it through the court system. The court system could be changing. So, so you need to be vigilant. And by vigilant is let your legislators and governors know IPERS is important and don't touch IPERS. And this isn't partisan. There are people on both sides, you know. We're talking about IPERS, to protect IPERS. And the governor, that's an important player in this. And where does the governor stand? Well, it's kind of hard to tell, because in January, put out a mailing, you probably all got this message from the governor and lieutenant governor, that it said, IPERS is a solid retirement plan that provides a core lifetime benefits to help public employees care for themselves without relying on social services. We're proud how efficiently IPERS provides safe, secure lifetime benefits to 1 in 10 Iowans. That sounds pretty strong, and I'd say keep reminding them of that. But in April of 2017, the governor offers a glimpse of the 2018 legislative agenda. She doesn't know what pension reform is going to look like, but it could be a hybrid or going from a defined benefit to a defined contribution. That's the governor's quote in the newspaper. Just September 4th, a month ago, the governor in the Des Moines Register, Kim Reynolds, isn't pulling out changes to the state's largest public employees pension program. Once again, mentioning the possibility of transitioning to a hybrid plan or something else. So not saying, oh, I'm going to stick with IPERS. You're talking hybrid plan and or 401k. Honor the commitments that we have made. That's if you're retired, you get that. That's what the law says right now. So they can't change that. You know, if you're retired, you're locked in contractually benefited. Like I said, there's cases out there where they're trying to change it. I can't guarantee that it won't happen, but if you're retired, you're in excellent shape of keeping your benefit. But if you watch Iowa Press, David Yepsen, I think probably a lot of the longtime reporters with the Des Moines Register. Why don't you play the clip of what David is asking the governor about IPERS?
Town where I come from, there's an old saying about if it ain't broke, you don't fix it. Now what's broke about the IPERS system?
Well, you have to make sure that you can sustain it in the long run and make sure that it's 100%. I think we should always not be afraid to continue to look at it.
Why don't you play that again?
Town where I come from.
I'm not putting words in your mouth.
Fix it. Now what's broke about the IPERS system?
Well, you have to make sure that you can sustain it in the long run and make sure that it's 100%. I think we should always not be afraid to continue to look at it.
That's, to me, that's a scary thing when we have something as great as IPERS, and what do they want to look at it? Okay, so the question is who's influencing these big decision makers? You know, are they going to change IPERS or not? Whether it's the governor or some important senators? Who's out there putting the pressure on? Well, number one, Americans for Prosperity. Now, I don't know if many of you know who that organization is, but it's the Koch brothers support them. They're big, wealthy industrialists that are against defined benefit pension plans. They're against it. And you see this guy here, Drew Klein, State Director of Americans for Prosperity. And the reason why I show this to you is a year ago, or almost 2 years ago, when public employees' right to bargain was stripped in 1 week and just annihilated any ability that unions or the teachers union had to bargain for their benefits. It was just taken right away. They asserted their power, and the person behind it, Drew Klein, this guy, that's the governor's bill signing ceremony. Nobody else got to be a part of it. The governor didn't want this out, you know, to show that a big special interest had such influence on him. Well, this was the guy that gutted public employees' benefits, and now this same guy and the same group, they're going after your pension. And that it's a libertarian group. They're a conservative political advocacy group, as I said, funded by the Koch brothers, and they got rid of public collective bargaining in Iowa, and now they're paying public support of pension reform. You want these guys doing your pension reform? Well, this is an ad paid for Americans by Prosperity, elect Governor Kim Reynolds. So, again, I'm not trying to get partisan, but if you're Republicans in here, talk to your governor. Tell them you like IPERS. You know, I came in 1983. Governor Branstad. Worked together a lot. And the first year, the state had to borrow money to pay its bills on time. So Governor Branstad came out and said, you know, I think what we're going to do is just, instead of going to Wall Street and borrow the money, we're going to just borrow it from IPERS. His office was flooded with phone calls and letters, and 2 or 3 days later he said, oh, never mind, we're not going to touch IPERS. So, I mean, he got the message from IPERS retirees. It's important. So, it's, you know, either side of the aisle, make sure you tell the folks. Because Republicans control everything right now. But they're, you know, make sure everybody knows. Another one, there's this called this Reason Foundation. And they're another libertarian think tank. And one of their main things they want to do is pension reform. They think these defined benefits, like IPERS is all across the country, is what's killing us. They are advocates of pension reform. Get rid of defined benefit, turn it over to a 401k or a hybrid. And that this Pension Integrity Project, they came out to Iowa and did a study. Did it pro bono. There's that Latin term for freebie. And so if somebody's doing this study for you for free, they've got a dog in the fight. They have an issue. And in 2017, there was a senator named Senator Schneider. He's the chair of the Appropriations Committee. I think he's going to be the new president of the Senate. He brought this regional group in to study IPERS. Meet with IPERS, met with the Treasurer's Office, met with the public, and that's how we needed to change IPERS. That's a powerful person, or a powerful group. The other one, American Legislative Exchange Council, ALEC. That's, again, funded by corporations. And their goal, they have a lot of goals, but one of them, pension reform. You've got to get rid of these defined benefits. And they are working for pension reform. And Senator Brad Zahn from Des Moines, a strong supporter and has financial ties to Alex. But for the last, I think, 1-2 terms, he has entered legislation, Senate File 45, the last 2 years. Do away with IPERS as we have it now and make it a defined contribution system. And he's a strong guy. He ran for Congress a couple terms ago. But he's a well-respected senator from Des Moines. So, I mean, and that's public record. So, who are the policymakers listening to? Well, the number 4, the Iowa organizations. Taxpayers Association of Central Iowa. Their comment, one of the reasons for an increase in expenses for Iowa government, state, schools, cities, counties, county hospitals, community college, this year is a rise in the required contribution to the Public Employees Retirement Plan, IPERS. They just said that this past month. You guys are the reason you're bringing down the state. The other one, there's a Public Interest Institute in Mount Pleasant. The Iowa General Assembly needs to change the pension system for the state employees known as IPERS from the current defined benefit plan to a defined contribution plan as soon as possible. That was May of 2016. That's their quote. So these are people that have a lot of influence. Oh, and then Iowans for tax relief. You guys probably should be aware of that. The pension reform for Iowa state employees is necessary for the state to remain financially stable. IPERS and other public defined benefit retirement systems are a huge liability for Iowa taxpayers. Let's take away the bow, the arrows, and the target, and have state employees, including legislators, participate in fiscally responsible retirement plans like the rest of us. That's what they're telling you. You guys are the fault. Of course, Apple can come to Des Moines and get $25 million. What's the big deal? Or a fertilizer company can get $175 million. What's the big deal? But people that give their heart and soul and money into the IPERS retirement system, well, we got to start cutting back on that. Charlie McConaughey, good to see you. He's strong supporter of IPERS. Thank you for what you've done. Okay, now I mentioned a lot of people will say, well, you know, we're not going to get rid of it, we're going to do a hybrid. Well, when you hear the term hybrid, you ought to be real concerned that it can mean anything. There's no official definition of it, but it's not good. And what this usually means is current and new employees are often forced to make up shortfalls and get less of a retirement benefit than the previous generation. Yeah, they want to cut off the pension plan right now, and oh, that unfunded liability, give the new make the new employees pay it off. There was a case study, Rhode Island. They had a Democrat governor, but they took some of those pension holidays, didn't pay in. They were in worse shape than IPERS. But they came up with a hybrid. And the Reasoner Foundation that was brought into Iowa, to tell you how great they were, here's what they said about the case study in Rhode Island, which of course they loved. They said it required employees to work 5 more years before you could retire. It used to be 62. In IPERS, 62, you can retire with no penalty. But now in Rhode Island, 67. And under their assessment, retirees received $7,000 less per year of retirement, assuming they were making like $65,000 a year when they retired. Their retirement benefit now is going to be $7,000 a year less. That's meaningful. And yeah, the Reasoner Foundation said that. You know, people who retire in Rhode Island today, their defined benefit. We're in Iowa. You know, you get about 2% for every year you work. Work 30 years, you get 60% of your high 5 years. Well, in Rhode Island today, you get, if you work till you're 67, no matter how many years you put in, you get, I think it's 32% or 33% of your high 5 years. How do you get the picture what these hybrids are? They're finding a way to stick it to the future generation or the current employees. And that's what they're after. So, as I said, current retirees may be safe. I think they're the safest that you have. You got a retirement benefit, you should feel pretty secure, but stay vigilant. Let people know IPERS is good for you and good for the community, and not be changing it. Also, current employees, you've been halfway through the system, you may lose half your benefit. You're at risk. And if you're new employees, you're in real danger. And which means, if we want to continue to attract good employees, good teachers, people really love Iowa government. Like I said, I've been here 35 years. People work in government and stuff, they love it. They want it. They have pride in the school or the courthouse or not all over the state. They do take great pride. If you keep cutting their benefits and pay, we're going to lose a lot of that. We're going to lose a lot of these good folks. So in summary, I'm telling you, IPERS is strong, it's sustainable, and it's secure. There is no need to take the drastic steps of changing our pension system. And we need to keep it strong to attract and retain good teachers and other public employees. And again, stay vigilant. Contact your governor or your legislator. Tell them, hey, like David Yepsen says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Keep your hands off IPERS. So with that, that ends my presentation, and I'll try to answer questions. And James, I guess you
All right, thanks, Mike. Just give him a hand, yeah. Thanks so much, Mike. And Karen, thanks to all of you. And yeah, I do have gave me a few questions beforehand. I hope that you're writing them down out there. They're going to put those in the basket as well. And we'll try and get to as many questions as we can. If you have not signed our little disclosure form, since this is videotaped, they need everybody to sign that. So in case your picture's down at the post office, you know, and you get them, I'm just kidding. We need to know, don't anybody blame us for it. So, and you know, as I go into questions here real quick, you know, Jan and I, when we were retired, we tried to devote some of our time to doing some good in the communities and things like that. And that's one of the reasons I know Jan and Karen, Diane wanted to get Mike and Karen here, and Nancy, excuse me, and so anyway, I just hope that you also will be committed to doing something. I don't care your political party affiliation, Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever, but please contact them and ask them where they stand on these issues, and then vote accordingly. Okay? But Mike, I've got a few of the questions here, and like I say, some of these you probably already addressed, but you can, if you have, you just tell me, and then we'll move on. Yes.
I'm collecting
Jan is collecting the other questions, so these are just a few that were written down in advance so we can get started. Yeah, but if you have questions, please stand them down the aisle and we'll try and get them answered for you. Mike, here's the first question I've got, and it says, your 2017 article in the Des Moines Register warns IPERS members to be concerned about legislative changes. Now in 2018, are your concerns lessened, the same, or increased?
My concerns are increased. Just because when I see the governor talking to David Yepsen about a month ago or a month and a half ago, I said, well, we're going to look at it. We're going to, we'll make some changes. We've got a system that doesn't need, there may be some minor adjustments we can always make, but the powerful interests are coming from everywhere. These taxpayer groups and Koch brothers, industry, the Alex organization. They want to get rid of IPERS. Make no mistake about it. They want to get rid of it. They think they're paying too much for your retirement.
All right, thanks, Mike. Next question on our list here that I've got says, Governor Reynolds and legislative leaders have made statements that they are interested in changes to IPERS, such as privatizing it and changing from a defined benefit to a hybrid or defined contribution plan. How would these changes affect both retirees and those currently working? And you talked about some of this, but if you want to summarize that again.
Sure, but most retirees, you're locked into a benefit, and it's contractually, you should be secure. But there's cases being brought before the Supreme Court and through the court systems in California and other places in the country saying, hey, we got to have a way to cut back on retiree benefits. Whenever you hear this argument, we ought to let governments file bankruptcy. That means that we want to cancel our ability or obligation to pay your pension. That's what most of it's coming from, is to pay off the pension. So there's a push for it. But current employees will suffer. They'll just have a less for retirement benefit. And future employees, you're kind of on your own.
All right, thanks, Mike. Next question I've got here, Mike, is this. Governor Reynolds has also said that although she will not rule out changes to IPERS, she would honor the commitments made. And this is a little bit of a long question. Can both these statements be true at the same time? And if changes are made, are they reversible? And if so, what are the procedures?
Yeah, well, the one that right now, if you have a retirement benefit under the current laws, she can't change. She'll honor your commitment because she has no choice. Or any government. They have no choice. So be mindful, if people out there want to change that. And let's hope they are not successful. And, you know, if they're willing to change the system for people who are currently working in the system or haven't hired on yet, well, if they have the ability to cut back their retirement benefits, they probably will. But right now they don't. So I'm not trying to scare anybody. You're 99% solid and if you're retired. But look what's happened in private industry. They allow companies to file bankruptcy, just get rid of their pensions, and then it goes to this Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation in Washington. And you get, I think the statistics say you get about 20-25% of what you were expecting to get as a retirement benefit. So it's not like they had a big heart on the corporate side of the world. So,
And Mike, there's one more part that I would maybe have addressed too, is some people are wondering if changes were made. For example, we went to a defined contribution plan. Are those reversible? Could they go back with the new legislature or governor back to a pension plan? And I think I know the answer to that.
well, that would be, once you change a system like this, it's really hard to come back.
Right.
And working in the finance industry, you know it. These are long-term plans. I've been running since 1953. We've made adjustments many times over the past. If you cut it off, and you don't have future employees paying into the system and stuff, it's hard to see, never say never, but it's hard to see how you can bring that system back.
Okay, thank you. Next question, Mike, is if Senate File 45 becomes law and new employees are excluded from the current IPERS system, will IPERS disbursements be in jeopardy? And if so, how long will it take for that to happen?
Okay. You often heard, you know, in our estimates, I said IPERS is $7 billion underfunded. Well, and we got the 26-year plan with investments and stuff, it'll be back up to 100%. But if you take that drastic action of passing that legislation, you're counting on all these new employees to come in and pay into the system. That would cut them all off because that legislation says starting next July 1st, any new state government employee has their own 401k system. You're just cut off. Well, that changes the game a lot because that $7 billion underfunding is now $20 billion underfunded. And it's like, oh my gosh, who's going to make that up? How are you going to pay it? That was kind of the problem Rhode Island ran into. So they developed a hybrid, which stuck it to the new employees and the current employees, and what benefits they could take away, like the cost of living increases from the retirees, they did. And so that's, beware when they say hybrid, we'll fix it. No, that's bad too, maybe worse.
So Mike, it sounds like it's very important for these people to understand also that it's all these new employees are really important to stay in the system too.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
we got a system, and the system works, and it's
Right.
sustainable. And, but yeah, we need new people into the system.
And next question here, Mike, is as public employees, we understood that our IPERS retirement benefits were part of our negotiated salary package, and that softened the discrepancy between our salaries and those in similar private sector jobs. Was eliminating collective bargaining a necessary first step before making changes to IPERS?
Well, whether it would be necessary, like, you know, with Iowa, one party has all the power. And they can just go in the back room and decide this is what we're going to do. And with collective bargaining, that's what they did. And if they have that power again, they got the power to go in the back room and say, we're going to all put in Senate File 45. Yeah. If they have, one party controls all the power, they can do that. And there's nothing that can be done. They can change it, just like that.
All right. And the last question I got here, and then we'll go into our basket there.
Yeah.
The Reason Foundation, which you did talk about a little bit, a group known to oppose public pension plans, again, like I think you mentioned, volunteer to evaluate IPERS. Their conclusions were refuted by IPERS actuaries and have been shown to be non-factual and slanted. Who benefits and who suffers from IPERS becoming a defined contribution plan?
IPERS becomes a defined contribution plan. The employees suffer. They, right now, you know, trying to list all the benefits. You know, it's professionally invested. You have somebody year after year, financial analysts, looking at how to invest your money, and for the long term. You know, and as retirees or members of IPERS, you get that benefit. You know, if you're just on your own in the 401k, and you're in your 50s, maybe 60s, you can't have 50, 60% or more in the stock market, or you're taking too much risk. You gotta have those lower, more secure investments. That's one way the employees get hurt. And most of us aren't financial experts like James. You know, it's just, what do? They love the idea of, I've got a retirement pension, I've sacrificed wage increases, I've sacrificed insurance benefits so I can have this good retirement system. And I paid in to this retirement system. And now when I retire, but till the day I die, I get that pension benefit. That would go away, and that would cause a lot of stress on folks. As individuals, you guys would be hurt. Not to mention, as I said, that even the communities you live in would be hurt.
That's right. Yeah, thanks, Mike. That's great.
Who benefits?
What's that? Oh, who would benefit from it?
Yeah.
Well, one, Wall Street firms are for it. Because they earn, some of these, you know, for 401k management, they're getting paid 3 or 4% a year. IPERS costs IPERS about, it's a little less than 0.5% a year to run and invest all the IPERS money. But if you had all these individuals having to go to an individual 401k, you know, the principals and Merrill Lynch and all those people, yeah, they would make a fortune off of you guys. They're the ones who benefit the most. The next one is that these regional groups, these are supported by billionaires. They think they're paying way too much for public employees. They think they're paying too much for your wages. They think they're paying too much for your health insurance. And they think they're paying too much for your pension. So they just think that, you know, they think they support everything, and we just need to cut what we pay the government and public employees is who we want to cut. But the beneficiaries, Wall Street.
All right, thanks, Mike. And now I've got the other questions here, so we'll go through some of these. If I see some that look like they're the same, I'll try and move on. This one doesn't have to do with IPERS, but it does have to do with your job there. It says, the question says, what happened to the $930 million surplus we had 5 years ago?
Yeah, 5 years ago, the state had a $927 million surplus. Balanced budget, and our pension funds, or our reserve funds were full. Well, it evaporated. It's gone. We have zero surplus. And that's because there's been, the candy store's been open. Apple got $25 million last year. There's some fertilizer company got $175 million the year before. Collins Radio in Cedar Rapids, they pay no state income taxes. They get about $30 million a year sent to them because they do research. Heck with Iowa and Iowa State, but those tax credits are killing us, paying out way too much. And that's the quick answer. That's where that $925 million went.
It's a good answer.
Yeah.
An honest answer. The next question I've got here, now this one's a little longer, so you know the answer or not. It says, are there any state legislators from this area that are connected to ALLY that you mentioned in your talk there?
I don't know. You know, Mike Longstall or Charlie McConaughey would probably give you a better answer to that. But I know there's a lot of legislators are involved with ALLY. And again, corporations, and that they have a whole legislative plan on what they want. One of them, get rid of defined benefit, which is what I do.
Mike, here's another one. This one you kind of touched on a little bit, but I'll ask it anyway. It says, how long before IPERS funds are depleted if new employees are not contributing? I know that's kind of maybe a bit of a guess, but.
Well, it's a good question. What do you do?
Yeah.
But like I said, the $7 million unfundedness we have now in conservative estimates, we got that plan to pay it off in 26 years. If you cut that off, it'll never be funded, and the unfundedness is like $20 billion. Who's going to pay for that? That's why these other states say, well, maybe we better figure out a hybrid plan. Make the new employees still pay, so we, corporations, don't have to. But it's, how fast would it grow? That's, with that kind of a hit to the system, I'd just guess, 15 years, 20 maybe at the most.
Okay. All right, thanks. And this one, I'll try and, this is a little more specific here. It says, if you are retired and decide that you want to work, how soon can you go back to work where it doesn't affect your retirement, understanding it isn't for the state? I guess going back to work for the state, that's what they mean.
Well, it won't affect your IPERS.
Yeah.
Once you retire in IPERS, you've got it. You can go do what you want.
Well, there's a window. There, I don't know what it is.
Well, you can't go back and work for the state.
Oh, for instance, but
Right.
anywhere else.
Yeah, anywhere else, go to town.
Yes, I hope I read that right.
Yeah.
I remember getting that question, but I.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
If you don't mind, if you're going back this year, an IPERS covered position, you have to receive 4 IPERS checks before you can go back to your own position. If you're going into a non-covered position, it's 4 months, you have to receive 4 IPERS checks.
yeah, and then the question said not the state, so I think
Yeah.
that's why you're answering that. Yeah, yeah, that's it, they go back to work for us, right? Thanks for clarifying that. You talk about this a little bit, well, that's true. It says, how would proposed changes impact the solvency of the funds?
Well, it certainly depends on what the changes are that are made. Like I said, if you just cut it off, 401k, right now, no new employees in, 20 billion underfunded, it's a disaster. If you put in a hybrid, all the current and the future employees are going to get dramatically less benefit. But at this point, state, contractually, your benefits should be secure. But like I say, you never know what's going to happen in the courts. But if you're retired right now, your benefit should be solid. But if you're a current employee or a future employee, especially if you haven't started yet, you're in real trouble.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And this question here, I looked to make sure it wasn't my wife's handwriting, because this is probably the reason why we're here, okay? But it says, what is the economic impact to Iowa communities from IPERS? And then, if benefits decrease or cease, will there be an economic downturn to small towns and perhaps an increase in the need for public assistance?
Oh, absolutely. As we said, IPERS goes to every county in the state. We have schools and courthouses, all counties, everywhere in the state. As I said, $1.7 billion is paid out in IPERS benefits. It stays right here in Iowa. Out of the $2 billion, practically all of it stays here and builds our communities. And I'll tell you, rural counties, 70-some counties in Iowa are losing population. They're hurting out there. And one of the things people tell me, you lose the school district in your county or your school or your town, it's devastating. The teachers and all that economic impact and government employees. So I think IPERS paychecks every month have a big influence and a big, it's not the only thing, but it's a big tool to help rural Iowa, all of Iowa grow.
Absolutely. And the next question, talk about this a little bit, but you go into a little more detail maybe. It says, who controls IPERS funds and its investments, and how are those people chosen?
Well, and on the investment side, we have an investment board. And that the board, there's a staff at IPERS, it's appointed by the governor, operating officer, chief investment officer, and then there's 4 or 5 other professional investment folks. And the board, basically, the number one thing the board does is oversee like asset allocation. how much are we gonna put in stocks, how much in bonds, how much in real estate, right on down the line. And then the staff, with the blessing of the board, goes out and hires professional managers, you know, that have proven themselves over and over again to be the best investment managers in the country. And since 1953, they've had a great record. So that's kind of how it's run. And of course, the legislature and the governor are always the supreme beings in the world of telling, you know, deciding, you know, if IPERS has changed, it has to be the governor and legislature.
Sure, all right, thank you. And here's another question, we've got a few more, but we'll try and get through as many as we can here. It says, are there changes you would like to have made to IPERS?
Yes, I've been public about it. The one thing that I think IPERS should scale back is there should be a cap on the IPERS benefit. And by the cap, I mean the wage. Up until the 90s, I think the cap was 44,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. And IPERS was doing well. And so they said, one of the things we want to do is take the cap off so we can get some of these high-paid employees to do well, or to come in and stay. Well, I've never heard of any high-paid employee in the state government that, you know, wouldn't have been there without that. But today, in IPERS, you can make up to $275,000. If you work 35 years, you retire at 65% of that. And I think that's too much. Not because I'm jealous of them, but the people that reach that high level, they aren't the ones that have toiled in the vineyards and paid in every year. It's usually somebody that got these huge increases at the latter part of their career, and they're taking advantage of the system. I think you should have some sort of a cap, especially if we're underfunded, that, you know, today, maybe it's 100, maybe it's 150,000. But you need to have a cap in there because, I've heard examples of somebody that taught 8th grade English for 20 years, paying in the system, maybe making 50, 60,000 a year, and then get one of these high-paying, you know, work on their PhD, and they get to be a superintendent, and all of a sudden they're making 250,000. Worked 5 years, and oh, look at that benefit. They didn't pay you much. There's a lot of other type of examples where I think people have worked the system. And so that's why I'd like to see a cap for them. So that makes sense.
Thanks. Another question says, have changes been made to other state pension plans, and what has been the outcome?
Well, as I told you, Rhode Island, they changed that to a hybrid, and I thought it was a disaster. Those guys are getting half the benefit they were expecting to get, and that the average loss of income on the retirement was $7,000 a year. But these Reasoner Foundation and all these taxpayer groups, they're all around the country. This Alex, they're working in every state to how we cut the system off. Michigan, they've been successful in a lot of their systems up there to 401k. That's the way it is. And so it's a movement across the country. It's not just Iowa. It's a movement across the country.
Again, I'm just trying to read these, and I hope I get this right here. It says, this question says, do current retired teachers have any say in what happens?
Yeah, you call your governor and legislators and they say, oh, there's still people out here that are concerned. Makes a difference. So that's important. That's the staying vigilant. When a governor, like Governor Grant said, you know, oh my God, I got all these phone calls and letters, keep your hands off IPERS. We're not touching IPERS. And legislators will tell you the same thing. Even with this legislation introduced, you know, I've been raising concerns about this, and I get a lot of feedback from some legislators. Oh, Mike Fitzgerald's just trying to scare everybody. Well, why'd you enter this legislation? Why'd you bring in the Reasoner Foundation? Why do you belong to ALEC? That's why I'm just sounding the alarm. Because I don't want IPERS beneficiaries sitting out here in a year or two talking to themselves like the labor unions are today. Hey, what happened? We got stripped of all of our ability. So it can happen fast. So be vigilant. Tell your legislators and your governor, keep your hands off IPERS.
Well, this next question, you might have already answered some of this, but it says, before the last election, we were told collective bargaining, might be tweaked, and in 2 weeks it was eliminated. How fast could bills like SF 45 and/or privatizing IPERS be moved through the legislature? And could such a bill be sneaked in, or will we see it coming?
That's the way, when you have all the power on one side, you can do it. You can do it in a couple of days. And that's what they did with cutting labor. And and it can happen. There was a lot of bills passed in the last couple of hours of the session. And the tax bill was passed in the last week of the session. They didn't want to have to publicly defend it. Pass it, get out of town. And so, once they decided to go after it, and IPERS is so popular, that's what would happen. By the last week of the session, bang, he's done.
All right. And this one says, can they take away our ability to go back to IPERS qualified jobs?
Well, if you do away with IPERS, there's no IPERS qualified jobs, if I understand the question.
Yeah, and maybe they mean that, once they're on a pension benefit, could they go back maybe there, could they maybe not be able to do that, I suppose, that might be.
But if you, like I said, once you have a pension benefit, the way it is right now, you can't be taken away. And so, if that's the concern, again, I'm not saying somebody's gonna take your pension, if you're on a pension, you're in solid shape. 99% safe. But, there's horses out there that would love to get at it somehow. And maybe in the next few years that'll happen. But if you've got a benefit, earned it, they're not gonna be taking it away, at least anytime soon.
Okay. Yeah, and this one, trying to make sure I read this right, but it says, who, or I think it means who, are the 4 state representatives on the board, and what do they think about IPERS, and how vocal are they?
Oh, boy. Matt McCoy is one.
Okay.
He's leaving, but he's a strong supporter of IPERS. Trying to, yeah, you're gonna have to, they've changed around a
It's a
lot.
Republican and a Democrat from each chamber.
From each chamber,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
okay.
Matt McCoy was a Democrat, and Mary from Iowa City, Mary Masher from Iowa City is a representative. And he has the 2 Republicans' names. Yeah.
But
Don Pettigrew.
Oh, Don Pettigrew, but she's leaving.
But the IPERS Investment Board makes no decisions about benefits.
Right.
They make decisions about where we're going to invest these funds. So they're not, it's the legislature that decides the benefits. And so, at one level, it doesn't matter a lot. And it's important to have good people on the IPERS Investment Board. But they figure out how to invest $32 billion of contributions from employees and employers across the state of Iowa in the most efficient way possible.
That's right, that's why I keep saying, call your legislator or call the governor. They make the big decisions.
It's more important who's on state government committee, because that's the committee that decides whether we have IPERS, what the changes are. That all happens inside the legislature. The key place is state government committee.
All right. Yeah, thanks, Mike. And we have a question about expenses. You kind of already covered that one, so I won't ask that one. I think I can lump these two into,
Okay.
basically, I'll ask them together, you might say. And the first one says, what should we say to people who say they aren't worried because even though our leaders are open to change, they will still protect IPERS? And the next question says, if this is important to us, what steps should we take to minimize potential changes, and what can we do to protect it? So those are kind of one and the same, I'd say.
Even though they say one thing, they're gonna stick by it. And that's why I had David Yepsen here talking to the governor. Why do you want to change it? Even when she sent out letters to everybody last January saying, oh, it's safe, secure, and sound, and we're all proud of IPERS. But there's quotes in the Register, in the Cedar Rapids Gazette, and again, talking to David Yepsen. Well, you're just gonna have to look at it, we may need to change it, maybe a hybrid. And what you need to do, can't emphasize enough, let your legislator know, and the governor, whatever party you are, let them know, keep your hands off IPERS, protect IPERS, that's a defined benefit plan. It's good for you, good for your community.
All right, thanks, Mike. That is all the questions that we received. Did anybody have another one to send up forward? If you don't, oh, do you have another question?
I just
Yes.
have, you know, to let these people know, what is the best way to communicate with them? What do they?
And the question came here, actually, what's the best way to communicate with your legislature?
Yeah.
Well, with your legislator, they're pretty out there. Charlie McConaughey was here, and, oh, he's still there.
I'm walking in.
And the governor's office, just contacting the governor's office. You know,
I mean, phone calls, letters, email, what's?
any of them are
Okay.
all good. And any of, if they're hearing from people, this is important, that really rings a bell with them. I mean, they got these hired groups and interest groups, because, well, that's the big money. Okay. When you start hearing from everyday citizens here, that means a lot. And hey, I run for office, and I hear from regular folks, hey, that's an important call. And so don't sell yourself short. Emails, letters, even a phone call. And if they even know you're concerned about the issue, a lot of people think, oh, these people don't care, or it's complicated. They know, okay, you're watching and paying attention to this group.
Does it need to specifically say, we are opposed to changes to a defined contribution plan?
Say whatever you want. You can put it in your own words as best, not what I say, but you what, IPERS is good, don't change it. And there are always maybe tweaks, you know, what the state's contributed and things like that. But let them know you're concerned and the big changes, they'll take note of it. That's important. Yeah. Well, the Senate File 45, Brad Zahn entered it this past year, of course. And there'll be a new legislature next year, and so that bill's dead. But I think he's entered it a couple of times. And the senator says that. So, yeah, and what I hear, he's going to introduce it again. And I think they probably have gained support. And so it's not going away anytime soon. So they'll have a new number this year. But I just wanted to let people know that it isn't Mike Fitzgerald making this stuff up. These are state senators and governors saying, hey, we need to look and maybe change IPERS. And enter bills to change IPERS. Yes, ma'am.
Does SF 45 include compensation for higher wages so people would have extra to put into their 401k?
It does not. I hear your point. It does not. As a matter of fact, when they gutted the labor bill, you got a decrease. And when labor couldn't stand up for state employees, whether you're in the union or not, this year, state government is going to pay $40 million less for state employees' health insurance. So, and we're self-insured, so who makes up that $40 million? Well, it's all state employees are going to be paying that much more collectively for health care benefits. So there isn't a great deal of love for public employees right now in state government.
Mike, did you have something you want to ask? A statement?
You know, maybe I think it's too long, so maybe I talked too much. The reason they're doing this right now, well, I won't belabor this too much, but 2008, the last year of the Bush administration, was a crash in the market. You all remember that. IPERS went from 23 billion down to 17, 18. It was close to 18, but it was below 18. 23 billion to 18. They lost $5 billion in the space of weeks. Okay, that's what happened to the investment portfolio. So they lost all. But listen to Mike's numbers today. So that was 10 years ago, and we have recovered from that 17, almost 18. We're at $32 billion today, but there is still an unfunded liability. And as long as that unfunded liability is there, the forces like the Koch brothers or any people that don't like to pay any taxes or don't really care about, those forces want to do it while that unfunded liability is there. So the crisis, they want that to be a crisis. That's why they blocked increases in the contribution rate for nearly a decade, Republicans did. for nearly a decade because they wanted to stress the system. So now they're rushing to get these changes made this year and next year and the year after, because in 5 or 6 years, we will have taken that 27, 28, that funded ratio.
Well, it's 81% funded, 81% funded, 26 years, it'll be 100%.
Okay, so in 5 or 6 years, especially if we have good investment experience at 7.5 or 8% above what we are projecting, that number, that unfunded liability ratio will be much, much smaller, and there won't be as much political impetus to get something done on this. So this is really incredibly important today, and is going to stay important and fade in importance as we get closer to retiring that unfunded liability. They've already recovered the $5 billion they lost in 2000 and taken another $10 billion in essence that they've gotten on this. So it's doing very, very well.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, they're pushing on this now because the political impetus for the costs on this are going to fade over the next few years significantly. And when we get up to 90% funded, people are going to go, there's no real problem there. We've closed the gap, we've cut it more than in half.
Well, if there's no further questions, I just want to thank again Nancy and Jan and Diane who helped set this up. And of course, Mike and Karen coming out. Everyone, you're totally good. I appreciate it. Have a great evening.